I'm going to delete all these and going to do one paragraph. And basically what I've done here in the styles is I've said all the paragraphs are going to be red and they're going to have a font size of 24 pixels, and then we're going to do a line height. Line dash height. Say I don't like the distance between those different paragraphs, and I'm going to say 15 pixels. Save. You can see now the line height between these two are most obvious, and they're kind of running over each other. So I can do 18. But anyway, you can see how you're starting to affect the style of the web page. If I wanted to do a font family tag, I can declare the web fonts that I want to use. So in this case, I'm going to use font family Helvetica, Arial, and sans serif. Save. Now I've got 3 of them, and you can see now my paragraph tag has changed into a sans serif format. It's using Helvetica that I have available on my computer is Helvetica, Arial, and sans serif. Now I can get a list of web safe fonts from pretty much anywhere. I can go to Google W3 Schools and get web safe fonts, and I can see an example of all the different fonts that I have available just by default. So I can use these anytime I want. These are all available pretty easily in the fonts that and they're standard. So you can see a list of web safe fonts. Now if you want custom fonts, you aren't supposed to use the fonts on your computer on your website because they're copyrighted, they're not free. But there are a good bit of free fonts available, and we can look at those fonts. Free fonts, if I just Google free fonts, you'll see a lot of fonts. Now Font Squirrel is a very popular website that has a ton of fonts available. Also Google Fonts has a pretty good bit of fonts. And I can go straight to Google Fonts, and you can see a whole bunch of free fonts that are available from my website. So Google Fonts is the first place I would start if you're wanting to get getting used to creating your own font stylings. So if you wanted to use, say, this normal 400 font, let's find an interesting one. Something a little different. Alright, let's say I wanted to use this Grumpy Wizards Make Toxic, this Fagaz 1. I can go and scroll over these links and look for a quick use. Click on the quick use and see what we have. In order to use Google Fonts, there's a specific way they want you to reference the fonts for your web page. There are other ways to do this with different websites. Different websites have free fonts. Font Squirrel's a good one we just looked at. But then Google Fonts, if you wanted to use this Fagaz 1 font, you would want to make sure that you first go down and look on this page and see what their standard formatting options are. To add this to your website, you want to add this code in the head section. It tells you to embed your collection into your web page, copy the code as the first element in the head section of your HTML document. So you're going to take this and you're going to copy it, Command C, and you're going to paste it in the head section below the style sheet. So you can see that that's all you do, is you save that. Then you can go into your style sheet and you can change the font family to the name of this font, which is going to be Fagaz 1, F-U-G-A-Z 1. So you go into the CSS styling and just change it and make sure you have the single quotation around this font, because we're actually referencing it in the Google Fonts webpage. They're actually using it on their servers, so we get to have access to it for free. And so you got the property and 3 different possible values in this font family, just in case one of the fonts doesn't show up on a browser. Okay, so there's the font itself. Now remember, if you're wanting to remember how you declare this font, you can just go look at the very end of this tag after the equal sign. It's Fagaz, and there's a plus sign, but you just pretend that's a space, Fagaz space 1. That's how you would type it in the font family in order to use it. Now, if you wanted to use multiple fonts, say you went to Google Fonts and you wanted to use several of them. Say you wanted to use, let's say this Robota Condensed. So I'm going to go to See All Styles. So there's all kinds of different options here. Say you wanted to reference those fonts, and I would like to use the light 300, normal, bold, and bold 700. Let's say I wanted all those as possible fonts for me to use in my web page. I can scroll over here and see what the different options are. You see how it's after the equal sign. I can click and copy this and go back to my index page and add another link there, H1 tag. And inside that, I want to do font family Roboto Condensed. And I'm going to do a semicolon, and then inside my index, I got to make an H1 tag. Oops, H1, not H. Now with these different specifications of Robota Condensed, you can use the font itself, and you can also change the font weight and the font style to italic, and the font weight, instead of bold, you can give it a declaration. So like if you wanted it to be 300, 400, 700, 400, 300, 700, you could do that. Save. So you can see the weight and the italic are changing. So you can see there are several ways to use fonts, specifically web-safe fonts, and then fonts that you might find for free online that would spice up your styling on your web page. So in this case, we used Robota Condensed, and we had several different options. We had light, normal, bold, and we had 700 and 400, and then we had the italic or the regular available, and we can change all of those in our CSS style sheet as an option to change up the styling for our web fonts. There are lots of other stylings that we can do. I just wanted to show you how to get started creating these declarations, CSS declarations, and then using them in your web page. The actual fonts are kind of a different beast. You don't typically have to link them in the HTML page when you do a style, but since these are being referenced from a web page itself, and then you're going to use them in the style sheet, if you can follow that, then you are going to be ahead of the game, because most styles do not require that much effort. It just requires knowing the property and knowing the value and putting them in here into the style sheet. So you can see how we're going to start to be able to edit the information in our page just with using CSS styling, and I hope that was helpful. Remember, we have inline, internal, and external style sheets. Those are the three options, with the inline being the closest to the text itself, and that is the one that is going to override the most. So when in doubt, use styling in the universal option, which is the external style sheet that can be applied to any web page. The goal for this class is just to use external styles. But I want you to be familiar with where you might see different CSS information within a web page as you learn and grow, because you'll need to use them in every instance. Okay? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class.